Welcome to the show today. I am so excited to have the amazing Dr. Deirdre Barrett on the show today. And many of you already know who she is, but some of you were introduced to her during COVID because she ran some very interesting tests and experiments with pandemic related dreams that were quite astounding. So, you've written so many books, I'm just going to bring you right on. Dr. Deirdre Barrett, tell us, for people who need to know about you, I know you're a Harvard trained doctor in dreams and hypnotherapy, and you've done so many things. You're just an icon. But for anything that anybody else should know about you, what should people
Well,
know?
because I teach undergrad and grad courses on dreams and I edit the International Journal Dreaming, I have to know a little bit about everything about dreams, the physiology, the anthropology, everything. But my own work has focused on a few areas, dreams in reaction to trauma and dream interventions with PTSD nightmares, a few studies on lucid dreaming, a lot of research on dreams in relation to creative problem solving, both
Right.
how they occur spontaneously, often to people who are stuck on a problem or creative task, but also how you can use dream incubation to make it much likelier that a dream will solve a particular problem. And then, as you mentioned, the pandemic dream survey was my most recent large study.
So there's a book called Pandemic Dreams that Dr. Deidre put out that is a volume of kind of the most interesting dreams and also the facts that people should probably know about crisis as it relates to dreams and what our dreams are doing during these times. Can you say a little bit about that? Because that was a few years ago, but we're still sort of in the aftermath of that.
Yes, Pandemic Dreams was written very much for the general public. And it's got brief summaries of the two academic articles I did, which were comparing the pandemic dreams to dreams from previous times and finding, certainly not surprisingly, that they had 3 times as much fear and anxiety and
Mm-hmm.
scary emotions in them. They had more reference to death, lots of things that you would predict, but also some things that I wouldn't for sure have known, like that for men, that was the main negative change in their dream, whereas for women, there was a lot more sadness and there was a lot more anger. And
Oh.
this made sense to me more once I started reading about the waking life effects in some places of the pandemic, which was that
Mm.
women were laid off from their jobs in much larger numbers, partly because they were likelier to be in contract jobs where they could be terminated overnight, or not to have things that said that they had to get 6 months of pay if they were fired.
Mm.
Also, women were more of the low-end healthcare jobs who were nursing the sickest patients in the
Oh,
hospital,
right.
but also
Right.
in the home, they did more of the caretaking of seriously ill people. So they had a lot more anger and sadness going on, along with the extreme fear that they shared with the male population.
I'm just curious. I know I talked to you during the pandemic and while you were in the thick of this, and you were actively seeking people's dreams during this time that were very specific to the pandemic. I'm curious if you noticed a theme of dreams that predicted the pandemic. Kind of like how there were before 9/11, a lot of people reported having dreams about buildings going down or planes crashing into buildings. Was there any trends like that?
Well, I asked about dreams you'd had about the COVID-19 pandemic. And so I think most people took that as,
Hmm.
since it started, I got
Hmm.
into the survey, which was 15,000 dreams. I got
Wow.
maybe 5 that were from before and where the people were saying it was predictive. And then I also heard, just in the other chatter about dreams, some. I actually had a friend that dreamed about hearing a news report about planes flying into the World Trade Center before it happened. And I
Okay.
did not hear any pandemic dreams that were that literal and dramatic a match. I definitely heard a few that, in retrospect, looked like a metaphor for it, potentially, or that the dreamer felt like. But I wasn't looking to collect
Right.
precognitive dreams about it particularly. So I actually didn't happen to hear as
Hmm.
dramatic accounts as I have for
Right. That
some.
would be a totally different book
Yeah.
of a different color,
Yes.
I'm sure. But it's interesting because for being such an academic and you're kind of the authority on so many things because of the feather in the cap of Harvard and you having fought the good fight to make dreams something that people can take seriously in such a culture. I'm really so grateful to you. And behind the scenes, and even now in front of the scenes, you're now an artist, or maybe you've been an artist all along, but I really love that you've got such a balanced brain that you are really doing so much in the way of art these days.
Yes, I've always loved art and I've collected it and written about it, but I felt like my eye-hand coordination was not good enough to really make the sort of specific. I didn't want to make just swirls of color that expressed something. I wanted to make like the exact face of a dream character or the weird
Mm.
treasury architecture I would see. And so it wasn't until about 12 years ago when I saw a friend's exhibit that was a lot of digital manipulation of photographs that I remember thinking, oh, I could do that too. I'm good at
Oh.
photography and computers. So my first art was collaging together images and then doing a lot of digital manipulation to make them look dreamier. And then I started not finding images I wanted for something, and I would sketch over it in Photoshop, but paint or sketch as in digital tool where I was using a stylus on a trackpad to do the painting. And the trick there is you can erase over and over. So if I don't get the line right once, now,
Mm.
in a painting, I'd have to start over. But in a digital painting, there's a, delete last line button. And so I can do it 12 times.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that's when I got really empowered about feeling like I could make something that really looked like what I'd seen in the dream. So for about the last 6 to 8 years, I've been making mostly digital paintings. And for a while before that, digital photographic collages. And before that, I wasn't making art, but I've just always been very visual and interested in art.
What I think this is so interesting about this, because I'm always wanting to talk about the specifics of what individuals are doing, but how does it relate to the people who are watching or listening? And I think it's an interesting thing to take something that is so deeply personal, like a dream, and be able to show people as close as possible what that dream looked like. And
Mhm.
in the process of that, it's like we're kind of revealing our soul in a sense, like this is what's going on deep 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 within me. It's so vulnerable. I mean, that's what the dream art contest and competition and all of that is. It's like all of these brave people that are kind of putting their dreams out there to be seen. So there's a value. So there's a value for the artist, but also the value for the people that are observing. What does this do, first of all, for you as an artist to take a dream and physicalize it in some way so that other people can see that and enjoy it and understand it?
I find it very rewarding. I mean, first of all, I've just always wanted to be able to see my own dreams again. I mean, I have this visual memory of them, so it's not like they're gone, but my visual memory is not hallucinatory,
Hmm.
realistic the way a
Hmm.
few people's is. So, like to just externalize it out there so I can just look at it in front of
Yeah.
me has been something I've always wished I could just take a photograph of it.
Right.
And so
And
it's
you
very
can now.
rewarding, even if nobody else cared about looking at it. I mean, I'm trying to get the details exactly right for me, which would really, I know, doesn't matter as much to viewers. It's more whether it's aesthetically pleasing and looks generally dreamy and reminds them of their own dreams. Whereas
Hmm.
for me, I want to get it exactly like the dream specifics were. But then also having this picture of my dream to show to other people, I really find rewarding. And you mentioned it being vulnerable, but I'm not quite sure why, but I probably feel more vulnerable when I'm verbally recounting some of my most significant dreams
Oh, okay.
because I'll be talking about how I feel, and I can almost hear my voice sort of breaking with emotion at points as I
Yes.
tell the really
Right.
big dreams, at least the ones with any negative content.
Mm,
And I'm doing that part of it sort of privately as I make the image, and the emotions come up then.
okay.
But once it's down in the dream, it's not the visual images so much as all that angsty stuff inside me that feels the most private. So
Well,
it's
that's interesting. So
not
the
even
process,
telling a dream for
I
me.
mean, it's even kind of, I'm relating it sort of to writing a memoir, which I've recently done. One of my last books was very profound about talking about some of the dark things. A crisis is a terrible thing to waste. It was a just a compilation of like every shitty thing that's ever happened that turned into something beautiful. Super
Mhm.
vulnerable to write it, but by the time it came out and was ready for people to see it, I was like, here, look at what happened. And it wasn't as vulnerable then. It was like the process, but to me it was the best cycle. It was better than any therapy I'd ever done because I had to work it out. So creativity period I think is just high therapy, great level therapy. And people, I mean, our dreams are very visual for most of us, and this is one way to therapize ourselves in many ways, to maybe heal, even to take a dark dream and put it out in front of us. Then in some way, maybe it takes it out of our bodies and out of our psyche and gives us a place of honor to put it in so we don't have to carry it around with us. Is it sort of like that?
Yes. Although I get one other thing I'm realizing as I'm talking to you is that I've made, I guess, only one full-on nightmare and a couple of real anxious dreams, and at least one that was very sad. But unlike what I want to write down and do dream work on, the
Mm,
dreams that I decide to make visual art from are often kind of transcendent, beautiful ones.
uh-huh.
So the majority of my art is like the emotion that I connect with is, I mean, it's vulnerable in a sense because it's very personal, but
Right.
it's positive.
Hmm.
Um, Although I've also noticed that just because the ones I want to make have a lot more bizarre, surreal imagery than
Hmm.
lots of my dreams are really just mundane in their visuals and to some of their
Going
other
to the
content.
store,
Yeah, but
parking.
it's these amazing images that I want to get down. So
Yes.
so
Yeah.
other people looking at my art often say, not just comment on what weird dreams I have, and visually they are weirder than most of my dreams, but they'll often say, God, I don't have those kinds of nightmares, when it's not a nightmarish dream, it's a positive dream. But it just
People
has
project.
weird creatures and beings who are humanoid, and I don't think of them as scary, but they're unusual and surreal. So a lot more of my images get taken as disturbing than they
Interesting
were. I've just gotten used to
that
that.
you love them. I'm just what I'm hearing as you're speaking. So many people, I mean, I hear this conversation about self-love and like what is it? It's kind of just this theoretical thing, but I think in some way honoring our dreams, talking about them, writing about them, painting about them, collaging about them, I feel like it's an act of self-love, self-esteem, some kind of like owning like this is my experience. I was here. This is what's happening. Okay, so I want us to see some of the artwork, and I want people to know that if you have a piece of art that comes directly out of a dream, there's still open submissions for the IASD, the International Association of Dream for the Study of Dreams, the conference this summer. Yes?
Their official deadline was the
Oh
15th,
God.
but they were having trouble with the portal. And
Okay,
I know
good.
they were taking some things up till the 19th, but I know
Okay.
the judges have started judging. And I have no idea if somebody had something absolutely ready to go, they might go. And I think the portal is actually still there. So you
Okay.
could try if it's ready today, but it's
But it's pretty
for
close.
next
But
year.
people can look at it even for next year. We get
Yes.
inspired. This will be one of the first the first time I'm submitting something that was
Oh,
a, it was a I had a dream of a mermaid throne, and it was at the bottom of the ocean where all the wisdom was, and I created a my very first installation. So I created a chair that kind of replicated it with all these things. Anyway, it was I presented it at the regional, but it was the act of doing it was so enlivening to me. I'd never done anything like that, and I am completely like out. I don't know. I could just bounce around right now and do cartwheels because it was so. I brought that to life. It was so magical, and I invited other people to sit in this throne as
oh,
well.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Walter Berry put like all these beautiful lights around, and it was all very swirly. It was so special. So let's see yours. Let's see some of your work and tell us a little bit about some of the pieces that we will get to see.
Um,
And by the way, as you're pulling it up, I want people to know where your website is so they can look at more themselves. So it's deirdrebarrett.com. That's Deirdre Barrett, Barrett.com, deirdrebarrett.com. Okay, tell us what we're looking at. This is beautiful. Deirdre Barrett, Dream Art.
So, so this first slide just shows you a little way these are typically framed once they're printed
Wow.
because they're digital paintings. The original is digital, so I sell them and put them in all shows except this upcoming one. It will really just be the digital thing because it's all
Uh-huh.
online. But usually in the ISD art
Oh
shows and
my
the
God,
gallery
incredible. Yeah, these do look a little
frame.
scary with these heads coming through what looks like a
Um,
wall.
Yes, the anyway, so this just shows you how they're usually displayed, but
Okay.
onto the individual pieces.
Oh,
Um,
this one's magnificent. Wow.
so this is the most recent one I made, and I've submitted it to the art show. That doesn't guarantee it gets in,
That's
but
great.
um, but do you want me to tell you a little bit about
Yes,
just a
please
couple
tell
of
us a
my
little bit
most
about the
honest
dream.
about
Yes.
so this was a dream about this woman who was hanging out with a bear and a wolf or wolf dog. They weren't really her pets, they were her friends. And this volcano begins erupting outside. They're in something that's sort of like an interior space, and yet it has plants growing in it and
Oh
a
my
sort of
God.
wormhole to the universe. So it's just a very odd space they're in. But at the main point in it, they can see out a window across a lake where the volcano that they know has been around them for a long time is starting to erupt. And the sense is that this is potentially threatening to many people and animals, but somehow this threesome knows all about this and knows it's necessary and is a little bit connected into whatever goes on with the volcano. And so they see the volcano erupting. And I think they see, but I certainly, as an observer of the dream, see this female spirit of the volcano. I associated it with Pele, who's
Oh my
the volcano
God.
goddess I know the most about. And the only time I've seen a volcano erupting was the one time I was in Hawaii for the International Association of the Dreams Conference.
Really?
And
That's so okay. Synchronicity. I was just
yeah.
talking to a friend of mine who's moving to Hawaii
Mhm.
this week, and she was just talking about how there's an active volcano happening right now in Hawaii, and
Mhm.
Pele is speaking. So, wow, that is so
So
powerful.
this is
It's,
an example of how you could easily see this as a scary image.
yeah,
This one's brand new, so pretty much no one's seen it yet.
I feel
Um,
so honored.
Yeah, but in the dream, it was sort of right and something that had to naturally happen, and the goddess of the volcano was not a bad figure, and the three entities I was identifying with in the dream were okay with this.
Wow,
So
this is
it's
incredible.
it's a harder dream to put into words
What do
actually
you
than
call this one?
I call it the spirit of the volcano.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. Well, I could linger on this one for about 25 years, but let's see a couple more.
Um,
God.
okay, so
Whoa.
this is one from about 3 years back, and this was about these three little guys who were kind of involuntarily sent on this mission in a diving bell to explore down deep into the ocean.
Mm.
And sort of whoever was in charge of this had conveyed this was like a really important, thrilling, interesting thing to do, but they were realizing it was this rickety, old-fashioned diving bell with a very thin rope taking them to
Whoa.
enormous depths. And in the dream, they passed by other sort of sea creatures and weird rock structures, and they were just increasingly distressed. They had not volunteered for this. They were not liking this. Um, and then I saw these like huge snake things come up to look at the
Mm.
diving bell. And to my mind, as an observer, the snake things just looked really curious about, they'd never seen a diving bell with these humanoids in it before. But the little guys in the bell like saw them, the big snakes threatening. So they were very unhappy, but I was just mostly thinking of it as a really interesting underwater thing going on.
Wow. I what I think is so interesting, just my projection is how all of their eyes kind of look similar. They all have that kind of rainbow going on. Instead of it being white, it's all kind of rainbow colored. Even the guys in the diving bell and these sea creatures. So they kind of look like they're related somehow to each other. And
Um, Well, the guys in the diving bell were consistently, they look not quite twins, but they all
yeah.
looked so much alike.
Yeah.
And I think in the dream that at times there were four and at times there were five, but I
Mm.
had to put one number
Mm.
into the picture.
Hmm.
So they always looked structurally very alike and had the same expression.
Wow.
Um, I'm not sure they were blue. I don't know what color they were, but the blue water was kind of reflecting off them, and the snakes, when they came, were blue like the water. So that just seemed like the color to make them. But I didn't think of them as that similar to the snakes in the dream. That
Hmm.
just comes
Yeah.
out of using a painting style.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, the guys were almost like there were four representations of sort of one person, and the snakes also kind of
Did you
all.
get a sense of what this dream was trying to communicate to you, or what it was trying to help resolve, or?
um Maybe just the tension between really unknown things being exciting and intriguing, and my sense of curiosity about that. Like I kind of identified with the snake's curiosity about this odd contraption coming down into their world that they'd never seen.
Hmm.
Um, and that their being exotic was not bad. And yet I also slightly identified with, I didn't sign on to sudden get exotic surprises, and any big change is scary. So I think
Right.
it's about the tension that I often feel about new things and change, and things, not in my comfort zone.
Oh, I would love to blend this one with my mermaid throne that was at the bottom of the ocean because there was so much fear about going down there. But once there, it was like, oh, I can breathe down here. This is great. This isn't scary. This is where to be. This is where the treasure is at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, the bottom of the ocean is probably an awesome place in reality for adventurous souls, but certainly in dreams. One of the few other submissions I saw was Belinda Tang has her sort of big dream about the octopus that was
Oh.
several years ago, and that she's talked
Ooh.
about at the conference. She has an image of that submitted to the art show.
Wow, this is fascinating. Okay, let's do one more before I let you fly. Let's see what else do you have. Oh, I
Actually, if we're
love
only
this.
going to do one more,
Oh, oh,
Uh,
oh, wow.
st-
Who's that?
uh, she is, uh, she just seemed to be a very self-confident, spirited young woman, and she was naked, but not in any particular sexualized,
Hmm.
seductive sense. She just happened to be almost naked, except for this kind of shawly roby thing. Um, and she was at the start of the dream. Sometimes I make a series from a dream, but this one I tried to combine them all in
Mm.
one image. She was in this room that it had a floor. She was walking on the floor, but it also had all the stars and planets in the background, and she was kind of wandering around in the universe, except it
Wow.
was the sort of a physical room that she could walk on the shiny black floor of.
Oh my God, I love this dream.
And
I'm so
and
into it.
at times it was mainly planets all around her, but at other times there were these fish that she clearly was not in water. It was more like they were swimming around in outer space. Um,
Wow.
and then she sensed some sort of danger or ill intent from some entity, and she left the room that was the universe to check on what was going on outside, and suddenly the universe room had an outside. So she stepped out into this brilliantly lit hallway, and at first it was as if she was looking for the bad person, but then it became more like she decided she should leave the vicinity and vibes of the bad person. So there was a slightly anxious, watchful look, but she was very much in charge. So she left out into the hallway of light, and some of the fish swam out after her, and that was when I woke up.
Oh, wow. And what message do you think you got from this for you? I mean, this is so incredible. You're inspiring me to want to do more art with my dreams, and I hope everybody's feeling this way. But what did you get from this dream?
I have a less obvious one for this. I have a lot of dreams that have a contrast of
Mm.
light and darkness. Like
Hmm.
sometimes they're there at the, let me see if I, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, like
oh,
this
wow.
one.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Oh,
this one, this big national prize, and was on a billboard in Times Square on New Year's Eve.
what? Wait, wait, wait. Back up. Say that again. This was on a billboard in Times Square.
Times Square, yes,
It
yes.
won a national prize.
Yes, the Kessler Collection hotels, which are hotels that have art galleries in them, um, had a
Congratulations.
contest for the next original. Um, and so I won this prize. That what the
Wow.
point I thought was seriously good was to get representation in all six of their galleries. Um, and
Congratulations. Oh
um,
my
and
God.
being on a Times Square billboard for fine art always seemed like a little bit of a joke. And um they had their website for anyone interested in buying art who wasn't drunk out of their mind standing down there in Times Square. They did have their, but I don't know that the Times Square billboard sold any art pieces,
But
but
how cool that
the
your artwork.
galleries did. The galleries
Okay.
did. So but I pulled this one up because I was having trouble explaining what I thought the other one was about. And it's a theme in my dreams that I am still somewhat puzzling about, but it's the darkness often associated with either a night sky or actually being in outer space,
Mm.
juxtaposed against an extremely sunny, bright environment.
Wow.
Um, and in this case, it was both at the same time, and in that one, it was more of a rapid succession, even though I sort of put the images of both in the dream. And this one was dreamed at the end of the pandemic, and women who were
Mm.
made up of the starry sky. It was like night up above, and then it was a
Hmm.
bright lit garden at the
Hmm.
bottom.
Hmm.
And this little newborn bird came more from the daytime gardeny stuff.
Hmm.
But the two women or female creatures had sort of come down from the sky, and they were nurturing the little newborn bird.
Whoa,
Um,
whoa.
and I mean, this one I thought of as a little bit about that it could be about the night sky as our dreams, nurturing the daytime reality. That's my more positive and more just the main point of my life sort of
Hmm.
interpretation. But it was also right at the end of COVID, when it was pretty much over, but not completely, still looking over our shoulder at it. And I kind of thought it might have a little bit to do with the darkness being able to represent the pandemic and death, and the dark side is
Yeah, I
the
see a skull right there in the
and
middle.
yeah, that the pandemic had ended up giving us some positive things
Yeah.
for normal life, even though in that interpretation they're a little more sinister than,
Hmm.
um but they're still giving something to the normal world starting back.
Right. I'm projecting this little bit of like the Wizard of Oz, like it's like the road, not exactly the yellow brick road, but it feels like off in the background I'm heading to some castle, something that's kind of supposed to be exciting, but it's littered with a little bit of death and blood and it's a little scary, but
Yeah, I
also
did, but that
beautiful.
that skull was in the garden.
Yeah.
It and that I don't completely understand. It doesn't make as much sense in the dreams giving to the waking world interpretation as it does to the COVID having, giving us some good stuff out of the death and destruction.
Wow.
But I want to say one more thing
Sure.
since I'm on
Yeah.
this. For people who are thinking about making art, this was several years before the other ones I was showing. And I had just switched from just making collages out of photographs to deciding that I could draw on a tablet as long as I erased as many, each
Hmm.
line just got erased over and over and over.
Hmm.
So I, this dream had as sort of precise details as the ones I showed earlier that are more recent, but my
Hmm.
drawing was sort of crude. I mean, you can just see that the line quality is sort of shakier. And so this was about the time that I could make images that I liked. And some people seem to respond to it looking almost intentionally a little more primitive
Hmm.
in drawing style, but the primitiveness was non-intentional. Um, and as I got better, I thought I'd get faster, but actually, as I've gotten better, I just kind of do more detail, or I
Right.
erase more times because I know I can eventually get it just right. So anyway, this is a earlier on when you're practicing with brush tool on a Wacom tablet, and the others are if you really stick with it
It's
for years.
I am so inspired, and I hope everyone who's watching, and if you're just listening, you're going to have to go watch this video on YouTube. You can watch it on my YouTube channel, Kelly Sullivan Walden, or the International Association for the Study of Dreams, because this is this particular episode is more visual than anything. But at the very least, I hope everybody is feeling inspired to do something in the visual realm with dreams. I know Walter Berry wrote a book called Drawn into the Dream, and
Mhm.
he's inspired me to just kind of sketch in a talk about crude. We're talking like, stick figures. That's my kind of art. But
Yeah. Walter has done a workshop at each of the last several conferences on drawing from dreams. It has a big group demonstration of that, and I'm assuming he'll do that for the online conference.
I'm assuming he better. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm on a panel that he's chairing with Julia Lockhart, who's a art
great.
professor at two different universities in the UK, and Walter and I are talking about dreams and art on one panel. But
Oh,
I'll
that's great.
bet Walter's doing his workshop also.
That's wonderful. So if you
So
want
I'll
to,
stop screen sharing so we can
okay,
just.
great. And so for everyone watching or listening, to find out more about Dr. Deidre Barrett's work and the art, the art, what are we calling it? The art contest, the art competition, the Dreams to Art
The art
show,
show.
the art
Yeah.
show, Dreams to Art
I
show.
suppose that everything currently submitted is an art competition, but the ones that get
But there will be a
submitted,
show
you
of,
only get to look at the art show.
there we go. And also these panels that you're going to be on with Walter Berry and Dr. Julia Lockhart. And so anytime I
Those
get
are
to be
part of the art track of
the art
of the
track of the
Study
International
of Dreams
Association for
Conference.
the Study of Dreams, right? And this conference is this June, and and it's virtual. So the benefit of that is that you can go from anywhere in the world. You can watch from the comfort of your home. So go to asdreams.org, that's ASDREAMS.org, to find out about how you can get your ticket and how you can attend and how you can see more of Dr. Deidre Barrett. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's always so wonderful to be with you. You inspire me so much. Thank you for your incredible work.
Thank you for doing this. I just love the ISD conference more than anything. And I know you're doing a whole series and going to have just a great preview of and tidbits from things on there. So thank you
Thank you
for doing
so much. All right, I'll see you all later. And until we all meet again, don't take your dreams lying down.